Who does she think she is? The maid's daughter? This should be entertaining. Trembling fingers hover above ivory keys. A young woman's eyes close, shutting out the whispers and mockery surrounding her. Her shoulders rise with a deep breath as the grand ballroom falls silent. In this moment, suspended between humiliation and triumph, 18-year-old Elsa Martinez stands at the precipice of a life-changing performance. The world has always told her to stay invisible, to know her place. But tonight, invisibility ends. Morning light spills across the Harrington estate, a sprawling monument to wealth that dominates the hillside above the city. Marble staircases spiral between floors, crystal chandeliers catch the sunlight, and priceless artwork adorns walls tall enough to make visitors feel insignificant by design. In the East Wing, a magnificent Steinway grand piano sits untouched except for daily dusting, its polished surface reflecting the opulence surrounding it. In stark contrast, the staff quarters occupy the basement level, small, functional rooms with cement floors and pipes running along low ceilings. Maria Martinez, known to the Harringtons simply as Mrs. Reynolds, folds freshly pressed linens with practiced efficiency. Beside her, Elsa arranges silverware into precise formations on a tray. Their movements are quick, economical, products of years living in service to others. "Don't forget, Mrs. Harrington wants fresh flowers in all guest rooms," Maria reminds her daughter, not looking up from her work. "And remember—" "I know, Mom. Stay invisible." Elsa completes the familiar refrain, her voice a practiced monotone that barely conceals her resignation. As they ascend the narrow staff staircase, Elsa pauses at the landing that offers a glimpse of the main hall. The grand piano catches her eye, sitting majestically in a pool of light from the domed skylight above. Her fingers twitch involuntarily at her side. Maria notices her daughter's gaze. With gentle firmness, she touches Elsa's shoulder. "Some things aren't meant for us to touch, mija." The warning in her eyes speaks volumes more than her words. The clatter of expensive heels on marble announces Victoria Harrington's approach long before she appears. Elsa quickly adjusts her posture, eyes lowered, arms full of fresh linens for the guest wing. Victoria glides into view surrounded by a cluster of equally well-dressed women, their laughter echoing through the high-ceilinged corridor. "As I was saying, finding quality help these days is nearly impossible." Victoria's voice carries the practiced cadence of someone who has never needed to be concerned about being overheard by those she discusses. "Reynolds is acceptable, I suppose, though I had to speak to her about appropriate workplace boundaries when she brought that daughter around." One of the women notices Elsa, nudging Victoria with a discreet elbow. Victoria's gaze falls on Elsa with the casual dismissiveness of someone regarding furniture. "Speaking of which," Victoria continues without lowering her voice, "this is what happens when the help breeds more help. Though I suppose we should be grateful for the sustainability of the service class." The women titter with polite laughter as Elsa stands frozen, face burning. From a nearby room, the opening notes of Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major drift through the air, the housekeeper's son practicing for his upcoming recital. The beauty of the music strikes Elsa so profoundly that her grip on the linens loosens, sending freshly pressed sheets cascading to the floor. Victoria's smile vanishes. "For goodness sake, girl, pick those up immediately." Her eyes narrow as she notices Elsa's expression. "Some things aren't meant for people like you to enjoy. Music appreciation requires cultivation and breeding, neither of which are acquired in the laundry room." As Elsa kneels to gather the fallen linens, Victoria turns to her friends. "This is exactly what I mean. No sense of propriety or place." The women move on, leaving Elsa alone in the hallway. Close up on Elsa's hands as she collects the sheets. Despite the roughened skin from years of work, her fingers are long, elegant, with the unmistakable dexterity of a pianist's hands. The Harrington mansion bustles with activity as preparations for the annual charity gala begin. Staff move efficiently through rooms, transforming the already impressive home into something from a fairy tale. At the center of the storm stands Victoria, clipboard in hand, directing the placement of every flower arrangement and crystal glass with military precision. The competition is the highlight of this year's gala, Victoria explains to the event coordinator. The Harrington Musical Scholarship will establish our family's commitment to nurturing cultural excellence. Her smile doesn't reach her eyes. And naturally, it will showcase Sebastian's extraordinary talent to the foundation board members. In the music room, Sebastian Harrington sits at the piano, his fingers flying across the keys with technical perfection. The notes of Liszt's La Campanella fill the space with impressive speed and accuracy, yet something essential seems missing from the performance. Victoria watches from the doorway, nodding with satisfaction. Wonderful, darling. Judge Montgomery won't be able to ignore your obvious superiority. She makes a note on her clipboard. I've already spoken with the foundation board about your future at Juilliard. Elsa passes the open door with a tray of tea, slowing involuntarily at the music. Her head tilts slightly, catching a missed note that no one else seems to notice. Sebastian concludes with a flourish, but Elsa remains transfixed in the hallway. Do you need something? Victoria's sharp voice cuts through Elsa's reverie. No, ma'am. I'm sorry, I was just what? Eavesdropping? Victoria steps into the hallway, closing the music room door behind her. I need to speak with the scholarship committee about finding the right kind of winner. Someone with the appropriate background and connections to represent the Harrington name properly. Elsa nods and turns to leave, but Sebastian emerges from the music room, his expression darkening when he sees her. Was she listening to me practice? He demands, looking at Elsa as though she'd committed a crime. Apparently the help has developed an interest in activities beyond their station, Victoria replies, not addressing Elsa directly. Sebastian steps closer, deliberately bumping into Elsa. The tea service rattles, and a leather-bound notebook falls from where she'd tucked it under her arm. Sebastian snatches it before she can recover, flipping it open to reveal pages of carefully copied sheet music. What's this? His voice drips with mockery. Are you stealing my music? No, I like to study the compositions. Elsa reaches for the notebook, but Sebastian holds it above her head. Mother, look at this. She's pretending she can read music. He tosses the notebook to the floor, pages scattering. Next, she'll claim she can play like me. Victoria's eyes narrow as she surveys the fallen pages of complex musical notation. I think you're forgetting your place in this household, Elsa. Your mother should be reminded that your continued employment depends on understanding appropriate boundaries. Maria appears at the end of the hallway, immediately assessing the situation. She hurries forward, her face tight with worry. Mrs. Harrington, please accept my apologies for any disturbance my daughter has caused. Your daughter seems to have developed aspirations beyond her capabilities, Reynolds. Perhaps you should remind her that in this house she exists to serve, not to be seen or heard, certainly not to waste time on frivolous pursuits better suited to those with the proper breeding and education. Maria's head bows lower with each cutting word. Yes, ma'am. It won't happen again. She grabs Elsa's arm with surprising strength. Elsa knows her place. Don't you, Elsa? The shame and fear in her mother's eyes forces Elsa to nod, though every part of her rebels against the submission. See that she does, Victoria says with finality. Now clean up this mess and return to your duties. As they kneel to collect the scattered music, Maria whispers urgently, What were you thinking? We can't afford to lose this job. Promise me you'll stay invisible. Elsa's fingers linger on a page of Chopin, the notes seeming to vibrate with life beneath her touch. I promise, Mom. But her eyes tell a different story. Moonlight streams through the tall windows of the main hall, casting the grand piano in an ethereal glow. The house sleeps, but 12-year-old Elsa moves silently through the darkness, drawn to the instrument like a moth to flame. Her small fingers hover over the keys with reverence before pressing down, releasing the softest note possible. The memory shifts to show Elsa at different ages, 13, 15, 16, always in the dead of night, always playing with increasing skill and passion. Each time her face transforms from the closed, guarded expression she wears during daylight to something transcendent, alive with joy and purpose. Back in the present, Elsa sits on her narrow bed in the staff quarters, the memory fading as she stares at her calloused hands. Maria enters, exhaustion evident in the slump of her shoulders after a 16-hour day. She freezes when she sees the sheet music scattered across her daughter's bed. "Elsa," she sighs, closing the door quietly behind her. "What good does this do? Why torture yourself with impossible dreams?" "Why is it impossible?" Elsa challenges, though her voice remains soft. "You've heard me play. You know I'm good." Maria sits heavily beside her daughter. "I've protected you by hiding your gift. Talent like yours brings attention. Attention brings expectations. Expectations bring heartbreak for people like us." She takes Elsa's hands in hers. "Your father had that same gift, that same passion. Where did it lead him?" Elsa withdraws her hands. "He left us. But that doesn't mean he left because the world crushed him," Maria interrupts, her voice tight with old pain. "He wasn't allowed to succeed, no matter how brilliant he was. The doors kept closing because of who he was, where he came from." She strokes Elsa's hair with tender resignation. "I won't watch you suffer the same fate." Later that night, Elsa stands in the shadows of the music room, watching through a crack in the door as a renowned pianist rehearses for the upcoming gala. The musician moves with the music, expression transported by each phrase. Elsa's hands rise unconsciously, fingers mirroring the movements on the keys, playing an invisible piano with perfect precision. Maria finds her there, observing silently, before placing a gentle hand on her daughter's shoulder. The touch carries a world of understanding and sorrow. "When I was your age," Maria whispers, "I wanted to design beautiful clothes. I sketched dresses at night, dreamed of seeing them worn. My mother told me the same thing I'm telling you. Some dreams aren't for people like us." Elsa turns to face her mother. But what if she was wrong? What if you're wrong? Maria's smile is tinged with decades of resignation. "Then I hope you can forgive me for trying to spare you the pain of finding out." As they walk back to their quarters, Elsa's face reflects the war within her, the dutiful daughter who wants to protect her mother's fragile security versus the artist who cannot deny the music that flows through her veins, demanding expression. Victoria stands before the assembled staff, her voice crisp as she outlines expectations for the charity gala. This event will feature a piano competition open to talented young musicians under 21. The winner receives the Harrington Musical Scholarship, which includes full tuition at Juilliard and a performance opportunity with the symphony. Her gaze sweeps over the staff with practiced disdain. "You will, of course, be invisible throughout the evening. The guests should feel as though their needs are anticipated and met without noticing your presence." As the staff disperses, Elsa lingers, eyes fixed on the competition poster. Victoria notices her interest and approaches with measured steps. "Fascinating, isn't it?" Victoria's voice drips with false sweetness. "How opportunity presents itself to those properly positioned to receive it. The poster says it's open to all applicants under 21, Elsa observes quietly. Victoria's smile tightens. "Open to all qualified applicants, dear. There's a significant difference." She adjusts her pearl necklace. "Proper candidates understand the social responsibilities that accompany such opportunities. The connections, the presentation, the background." She emphasizes the last word with deliberate cruelty. Later that afternoon, Judge Montgomery arrives early to inspect the venue and piano. A distinguished figure with penetrating eyes that miss nothing, he walks the perimeter of the ballroom, testing acoustics with occasional hand claps. Believing the house empty except for staff, Elsa seizes a rare moment alone with the piano. Her fingers move across the keys with practiced precision, bringing to life Debussy's Clair de Lune. with a depth of feeling that transforms the technically challenging piece into something transcendent. She doesn't notice Judge Montgomery standing in the shadowed doorway, his expression shifting from surprise to intense curiosity. Before he can make his presence known, Victoria sweeps into the room from another entrance. Elsa's hands fly from the keys as though burned. "What do you think you're doing?" Victoria hisses, not yet seeing Judge Montgomery. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Harrington. I was just dusting and—" "Do not insult my intelligence," Victoria cuts her off. "Your duties do not include touching this instrument. Ever." Judge Montgomery clears his throat, stepping from the shadows. Victoria's demeanor transforms instantly, her anger concealed beneath a practiced social smile. "Judge Montgomery, we weren't expecting you until this evening." "I prefer to assess the performance space beforehand," he replies, his gaze moving between Victoria and Elsa with undisguised interest. "I was just enjoying some unexpected music." Victoria's laugh is brittle. "Oh, you must mean Sebastian. My son is the highlight of our competition. His technique is unparalleled for his age." "Indeed." Montgomery's eyebrow raises slightly. "I look forward to hearing him." Victoria ushers him away, throwing a warning glance at Elsa over her shoulder. "The staff quarters are downstairs, Elsa. I suggest you return to where you belong." As they leave, Judge Montgomery looks back, his perceptive eyes meeting Elsa's for a brief, significant moment. In the privacy of a seldom-used office, Elsa fills out the competition application form with trembling hands. Every question feels like a trap, especially the sections requesting previous training and performance experience. She hesitates, pen hovering over the paper, before writing simply, "Self-taught, private study for 10 years. She seals the envelope and places it on the stack of outgoing mail, heart pounding with the recklessness of her action. Hours later, Victoria sorts through the correspondence at her desk, her perfectly manicured nails slicing efficiently through envelopes. When she reaches Elsa's application, she studies the handwriting with narrowed eyes. Victoria's face hardens as she reads the contents. With deliberate slowness, she tears the application into precise quarters, then eighths, watching the pieces flutter into her wastebasket. Her lips curve into a cold smile as she picks up her phone. "Charles? It's Victoria Harrington, about that scholarship competition. I want to ensure the selection process properly reflects the values and standards of our foundation." The next day, Elsa's makeshift keyboard, paper keys carefully drawn on cardboard, laid out on her bed, sits before her as she practices silently, fingers dancing above the surface without making a sound. Through headphones connected to nothing, she hears the music in her mind, eyes closed in concentration. The door bursts open. Sebastian stands there with two friends, their faces twisted with cruel amusement. "Well, look at this," Sebastian drawls, stepping into the small room without permission. "The maid's daughter thinks she's a pianist." His friends snicker on cue. Elsa scrambles to hide her practice keyboard, but Sebastian is faster, snatching it away. "What is this pathetic thing?" He turns it over in his hands. "You actually think you can learn to play on paper?" His laughter cuts like glass. "My mother told me about your ridiculous application, as if someone like you could compete with trained musicians." He tosses the cardboard keyboard to the floor, deliberately stepping on it. "Delusions of grandeur are dangerous for people in your position. Remember that." After they leave, Maria finds Elsa gathering the crumpled pieces of her keyboard, tears streaming silently down her face. "Oh, mija." Maria kneels beside her, helping collect the torn cardboard. "This is what I've tried to protect you from." "Why?" Elsa's voice breaks. "Why are people like them allowed to crush people like us?" Maria wipes her daughter's tears with a calloused thumb. "Because the world is built by them, for them. Dreams aren't for people like us, Elsa. Security is what we can hope for. Survival." Elsa's hands clench around the ruined keyboard. "That's not enough for me, Mom. It never has been." The determination in her daughter's eyes sends a chill through Maria. She's seen that look before, in the eyes of the man who left them both behind to chase his own impossible dream. Gala preparations intensify as the date approaches. Elsa works double shifts, polishing silver until her reflection stares back at her from serving trays, arranging flowers until their perfume follows her into sleep. The house hums with anticipation, but a new complication has arisen. "Sebastian, calm down. We'll find a replacement," Victoria soothes her son, who paces the music room like a caged animal. Through the partially open door, Elsa hears every word as she dusts the adjacent hallway. "How? The competition is in 3 days, and David's wrist injury means there's no real competition now." Sebastian runs his hand through his perfectly styled hair. "What's the point of winning if everyone knows it was by default?" Victoria taps her pen against her clipboard. "I'll call the conservatory. Surely they have another student who could participate on short notice." Later that evening, Elsa overhears Sebastian in the garden, laughing with his friends over expensive brandy stolen from his father's study. "It's actually perfect," he gloats, swirling the amber liquid. "Judge Montgomery practically promised me the scholarship after David dropped out. Said something about appreciating my years of dedicated training." He smirks. "As if I needed to practice for this pathetic competition anyway." Rage burns in Elsa's chest, hot and unfamiliar. She retreats to her mother's room, finding Maria meticulously mending a torn tablecloth despite the late hour. "Mom, I need to know about my father," Elsa says without preamble. The whole truth this time. Maria's hands go still. "Why now?" "Because I'm tired of hiding, tired of being afraid, tired of watching people like Sebastian Harrington get everything handed to them while people like us—" Elsa's voice catches. "While people like us mend their tablecloths at midnight." The silence stretches between them until Maria sighs, setting her sewing aside. "Your father, Matteo, was a musical genius, a pianist like no other." Maria's eyes take on a faraway look. "He played for the symphony despite having no formal training. His talent was too extraordinary to ignore." "What happened to him?" "He met me. I was working as an usher at the concert hall." A sad smile touches Maria's lips. "We fell in love, married, had you. He was offered a prestigious position with a European orchestra. We were going to move, start a new life." She falls silent, fingers unconsciously creasing the tablecloth. "And?" Elsa prompts. "And Victoria Harrington happened." Bitterness edges into Maria's voice. "Her husband was on the symphony board. She took an interest in your father, the kind of interest a married woman shouldn't take in another man. When he rejected her advances, she made accusations, used her influence to blacklist him." Elsa stares at her mother in shock. "What accusations?" "Theft, plagiarism of compositions. None of it was true, but it didn't matter. No one would hire him after that. He couldn't bear the shame, the inability to provide." Maria's eyes fill with tears. "One day he was just gone. Left a note saying we deserved better than a failed musician. That's why we changed our name? Why we're Reynolds instead of Martinez?" Maria nods. "Victoria didn't recognize me when I applied here years later. By then, she'd moved on to new amusements. But I recognized her. Every day I've worked here, served her, cleaned up after her parties." "And you never told me?" Elsa whispers. "I was trying to protect you. Victoria Harrington deliberately destroyed your father because he wounded her pride. Imagine what she'd do if she knew his daughter was under her roof with the same extraordinary gift." Elsa's hands clench into fists. "She's kept us in servitude out of spite, all these years, and now her son will win a scholarship he doesn't deserve or appreciate. That's how the world works, mija." "No." Elsa stands, a new resolve straightening her spine. "That's how their world works. But not anymore. Not for me." The determination in her eyes fills Maria with both pride and terror. The night of the gala arrives, transforming the Harrington mansion into a glittering showcase of wealth and privilege. Limousines deposit guests in formal attire at the entrance, where staff in crisp uniforms guide them toward the ballroom. Elsa moves through the crowd like a ghost, carrying trays of champagne flutes, invisible despite being in plain sight. The main event, the piano competition, has drawn significant attention. The grand piano sits on a raised platform at the center of the ballroom, spotlight illuminating its gleaming surface. Judge Montgomery converses with foundation board members, his dignified presence lending gravity to the proceedings. Sebastian, in an impeccably tailored tuxedo, mingles confidently with guests. His usual arrogance is magnified by the certainty of his victory, now that his only serious competitor has withdrawn. Victoria hovers nearby, orchestrating introductions to influential members of the arts community. From her position against the wall, Elsa watches the remaining competitors warm up in a side room. There are only two besides Sebastian, young musicians from wealthy families, talented but noticeably nervous about performing. Neither approaches Sebastian's technical proficiency, though Elsa notices the mechanical quality of their playing, the absence of emotional connection to the music. The competition begins. Sebastian performs Rachmaninoff's Prelude in G minor with flawless technique. His fingers fly across the keys with precision, hitting every note perfectly. The audience applauds enthusiastically when he finishes with a dramatic flourish, though Judge Montgomery's expression remains thoughtfully neutral. Throughout Sebastian's performance, Elsa stands transfixed, her tray forgotten at her side. Judge Montgomery notices her subtle reactions to the music. The almost imperceptible wince at a rushed passage, the slight head tilt during a particularly challenging sequence. His gaze lingers on her with growing interest. The other competitors perform adequately but unmemorably. Victoria's satisfaction grows with each mediocre performance, her smile becoming more genuine as Sebastian's victory seems increasingly assured. As the final competitor concludes, Victoria approaches the microphone with triumph, barely concealed beneath her socialite's mask of gracious hospitality. Thank you to all our talented young musicians. Unfortunately, our final competitor, David Chen, was unable to participate due to injury. Unless there are any other registered participants, we'll proceed to the judge's deliberation. Judge Montgomery stands. I believe a competition requires true competition, Mrs. Harrington. With only 3 performers, one significantly more experienced than the others, this feels rather predetermined. Victoria's smile doesn't falter. I assure you, Judge, all qualified applicants were given equal opportunity to participate. Perhaps, he replies, his gaze sweeping the room until it lands on Elsa. There might be someone else who could make this a genuine contest. The silence that follows is electric. Victoria's eyes narrow dangerously. That would be highly irregular, Judge. Our foundation has standards for participants. Indeed. Musical standards, I presume. Montgomery's tone is mild but pointed. A commotion near the service entrance interrupts the tension. The event coordinator hurries to Victoria, whispering urgently in her ear. Victoria's face pales slightly. It seems we have an emergency, she announces to the room. Our musical director for the closing performance has been delayed in traffic. The program cannot proceed without a pianist for the scholarship announcement ceremony. Judge Montgomery's eyes find Elsa again. Perhaps a solution presents itself. Surely one of our competitors could step in, Victoria suggests, her voice tight with controlled panic. I've just played a challenging piece, Sebastian objects. I couldn't possibly perform again without preparation. Judge Montgomery steps forward. I believe what we need is someone who can sight-read the accompaniment. Someone with versatility beyond prepared competition pieces. His gaze settles directly on Elsa, who stands frozen at the edge of the crowd. Young lady, you seem to have an interest in the piano. Perhaps you could assist us? A collective murmur ripples through the gathering. Victoria moves swiftly to intercept this derailment of her carefully orchestrated evening. That's impossible. She's staff, not a performer. She has duties to attend to. I'm simply suggesting a practical solution to your predicament, Mrs. Harrington. Montgomery's voice carries the weight of authority. Unless you'd prefer to cancel the scholarship announcement ceremony? Victoria's smile becomes brittle. Of course not, but surely there's someone more appropriate. From the back of the room, Maria watches the scene unfold with mounting dread. She sees the yearning in her daughter's eyes, the opportunity hanging in the balance, and the danger it represents. Their security, their livelihood, their very survival teeters on this moment. Elsa takes a step forward, then another. The crowd parts unconsciously, creating a path to the piano. Victoria moves to block her way, her voice dropping to a threatening whisper. If you embarrass this family, you and your mother will never work in this city again. But something has shifted in Elsa. The years of hiding, of diminishing herself, of pretending to be less than she is, crystallize into a single moment of clarity. She meets Victoria's gaze without flinching. I can play the accompaniment. The words, spoken quietly but with absolute certainty, silence the room. Victoria's face contorts with fury barely contained by social propriety. This is absurd. She has no training, no experience. She's a maid's daughter. Music doesn't care who your parents are, Mrs. Harrington. Judge Montgomery extends his hand toward the piano. Shall we find out what she can do? Elsa moves toward the instrument, acutely aware of her plain black uniform amid the evening gowns and tuxedos. The spotlight feels like an interrogation, exposing her presumption in daring to approach this hallowed space. Whispers follow her, amused, dismissive, curious. Who does she think she is? The maid's daughter? This should be entertaining. Sebastian snickers loudly from his place among his friends. Mother, are we really allowing the help to touch the Steinway? Elsa reaches the piano bench, her heart thundering in her chest. The gleaming keys stretch before her like a landscape both familiar and terrifyingly new. Never has she played for an audience. Never like this, exposed and vulnerable. She glances back, finding her mother's face in the crowd. Maria's expression is a complex mixture of terror and pride. Their eyes lock across the room, a lifetime of sacrifices and secrets passing between them. Elsa turns back to the piano. Her fingers hover above the keys, trembling slightly. The sheet music for the accompaniment sits on the stand, a complex piece she's never seen before. The crowd's whispers grow louder, expectant. This is the moment of truth. A hush falls over the ballroom as Elsa's fingers finally make contact with the keys. The first notes emerge tentatively, as if testing unfamiliar waters. There's a collective intake of breath, the audience prepared for disaster, for confirmation of their prejudice. Then something shifts. Elsa's hands find their confidence, moving with increasing assurance across the keyboard. The simple accompaniment transforms under her touch, acquiring depth and nuance that weren't written into the score. Her body relaxes into the music, the years of practicing in secret revealing themselves in her perfect posture, her fluid movements. Judge Montgomery's eyebrows rise in quiet appreciation. Victoria's smile freezes on her face. Sebastian stares with undisguised shock. Impossible, he whispers to no one in particular. But it's happening. Note by perfect note, Elsa reveals her true self to the room. The accompaniment concludes, and in the silence that follows, Judge Montgomery steps forward. Perhaps, since we're evaluating musical talent tonight, we should hear something more substantial. He turns to Elsa. Do you know any concert pieces? Before Victoria can object, Elsa's hands return to the keys. The opening bars of Chopin's Ballade No. 1 in G minor fill the air, one of the most challenging pieces in the piano repertoire. The room collectively gasps. This is no simple accompaniment, no beginner's exercise. This is virtuosity. From technical precision, the performance transforms into something transcendent. Elsa's eyes close, shutting out the crowd, the judgment, the years of suppression. Her face changes, the careful mask of servitude falling away to reveal pure joy, the ecstasy of finally being allowed to speak her true language. The camera pans across the stunned faces of the audience. Wealthy patrons who moments ago didn't notice Elsa's existence now stand transfixed. The other competitors watch with expressions ranging from disbelief to reluctant admiration. Sebastian's face contorts with conflicting emotions: shock, disbelief, and beneath it all, the dawning recognition of genuine artistry beyond his technical mastery. Victoria's panic grows with each passing measure. She sees her carefully constructed plans crumbling, but more disturbingly, there's something hauntingly familiar about Elsa's playing style, the distinctive phrasing, the emotional quality that reaches beyond technique into something indefinable. The music builds to its climactic passage. Elsa's hands fly across the keyboard with breathtaking speed and precision, drawing sounds from the instrument that seem impossible. The notes cascade like water, like light, like truth finally breaking free after years of confinement. Judge Montgomery stands perfectly still, his experienced ear recognizing not just talent, but genius. Tears form in his eyes, unexpected and unbidden. Around the room, others find themselves similarly moved. Handkerchiefs appear, throats are cleared, eyes glisten in the dim light. Maria watches her daughter with hands clasped to her mouth, tears streaming freely down her face. In this moment, she sees not just Elsa, but Matteo, his passion, his brilliance living on in their child. Pride and fear war within her heart, knowing there's no going back from this revelation. As Elsa approaches the final measures, the entire room holds its breath. Her fingers dance across the keys with increasingly delicate touches, the music becoming ethereal, transcendent. The final notes hang in the air like a question, a challenge to the world that tried to silence her. When she finally lifts her hands from the keys, the silence is complete, profound. For 3 heartbeats, no one moves, no one breathes. The spell she has cast over the room remains unbroken. Then, from the back of the room, a single person begins to applaud. The sound is joined by another, then another, until a thunderous ovation fills the ballroom. People rise to their feet spontaneously, the standing ovation spreading like wildfire through the crowd. Only Victoria and Sebastian remain seated, their expressions frozen in disbelief and dawning horror. Elsa opens her eyes, returning to herself, to the room, to the reality of what she has just done. For the first time in her life, she is truly seen. The applause continues, building rather than diminishing, punctuated by calls of bravo from the more musically knowledgeable guests. Judge Montgomery approaches the piano, his dignified reserve replaced by undisguised amazement. "Young lady, that was extraordinary." His voice carries easily over the gradually quieting crowd. "Where did you study?" Elsa hesitates, acutely aware of Victoria hovering nearby, her face a mask of barely controlled fury. "I'm self-taught, sir." "Self-taught," Montgomery repeats, incredulity evident in his tone. "That's not possible. That performance showed years of professional training." "My father was a pianist," Elsa says quietly. "I learned by watching, listening. I practice when I can." "When you can?" An elegant older woman approaches, her diamond necklace catching the light. "On this piano?" "No, ma'am." Elsa's voice drops further. "I don't have regular access to a piano." This revelation sends another ripple of murmurs through the crowd. Judge Montgomery's expression shifts from amazement to something more complex, a recognition of tragedy narrowly averted, of talent nearly lost. "What's your name?" he asks. "Elsa. Elsa Martinez." Victoria steps forward at last, her social mask firmly back in place. "Judge Montgomery, while this impromptu performance was certainly unexpected, we should return to the competition at hand. The scholarship." "The competition is over, Mrs. Harrington." Montgomery's tone brooks no argument. "We've just witnessed the clear winner." Sebastian pushes through the crowd, his face flushed. "That's not fair. She wasn't even registered. I've been preparing for months." "Years of private lessons, conservatory training, and the finest instructors money can buy." Montgomery observes dryly, versus raw talent without a piano to practice on. Which is more impressive, young man? The Foundation board members nod in agreement, already seeing the publicity value in Elsa's story, the hidden prodigy discovered in their midst. Cameras flash as society photographers capture the moment. I'd like to offer you not just the Harrington Scholarship, Montgomery continues, addressing Elsa directly, but personal mentorship. Your technique needs refinement, but your innate musicality... He shakes his head in wonder. I haven't heard such natural expression since... This is outrageous, Victoria interrupts, abandoning pretense. She's staff. She has contractual obligations to this household. I believe talent like hers creates new obligations. For us, replies a distinguished man with a German accent, introducing himself as the director of the symphony. The arts community has a responsibility to nurture exceptional gifts, regardless of their origin. Wealthy patrons surround Elsa, asking questions about her background, her training, her aspirations. Each answer, her mother's sacrifices, her midnight practice sessions, her makeshift cardboard keyboard, adds to their fascination. The narrative writes itself. The Cinderella story, the diamond in the rough, the triumph of raw talent over privilege. From across the room, Maria watches with complex emotions warring on her face. Pride in her daughter's brilliance battles with terror at the attention now focused upon her. Years of carefully maintained invisibility shattered in a single performance. There's no going back. They are seen, exposed, vulnerable. And yet, as she observes Elsa's transformation, her daughter standing tall, speaking with confidence, no longer diminishing herself, Maria feels something unexpected bloom in her chest. Hope. Victoria Harrington has not maintained her social position by surrendering easily. As the crowd around Elsa grows, Victoria's mind races, calculating angles, seeking leverage. She approaches with determined steps, her voice pitched to carry just far enough. While this has been most entertaining, I feel obligated to point out that employment in this household includes certain confidentiality agreements. Her smile is knife-sharp. Performing at events without permission constitutes a breach of contract. Judge Montgomery turns, one eyebrow raised. Are you suggesting that displaying musical talent violates employment terms, Mrs. Harrington? I'm merely pointing out that staff members have specific roles. Overstepping those boundaries has consequences. Victoria's gaze shifts meaningfully to where Maria stands. For everyone involved. The threat hangs in the air, its intention clear. Elsa's momentary triumph falters as she realizes what her mother stands to lose. Perhaps we should discuss this privately, Victoria suggests with false cordiality. Family matters, after all. Family matters? The question comes from an elderly board member, his interest piqued. Victoria hesitates, recognizing her misstep too late. A figure of speech. I simply meant household matters. But Judge Montgomery is studying Elsa's face with new intensity. There was something familiar about your playing, a distinctive phrasing, a particular emotional quality I've only encountered once before. His eyes narrow in sudden recognition. You play like Matteo Martinez. The name sends a visible shock through Victoria. Her composure slips, color draining from her face. That's impossible, she whispers. Matteo Martinez, Montgomery continues, was perhaps the most naturally gifted pianist I ever encountered. His career was cut tragically short under mysterious circumstances. He turns to Elsa. You said your father was a pianist. Was Matteo Martinez your father? Before Elsa can answer, Victoria interrupts. This is absurd. The girl is obviously copying techniques she's overheard during Sebastian's lessons. No one could imitate what I just heard, Montgomery replies firmly. That wasn't technique. That was inheritance. Maria steps forward at last, her years of practiced invisibility falling away as she moves to her daughter's side. Her father was Matteo Martinez, she confirms, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. My husband. A shocked silence descends upon the gathering. Victoria's expression hardens into something ugly. Reynolds, you're fired. Both of you, out of my house immediately. Reynolds, Montgomery repeats, confusion evident. My married name was Martinez, Maria explains. After my husband disappeared, I took my mother's maiden name. When I applied for work here years later, Mrs. Harrington didn't recognize me. Disappeared? Montgomery presses. Mateo didn't disappear. He was systematically blacklisted. Every door closed to him overnight. There were rumors of theft, of plagiarism. Maria's voice gains strength. False accusations that destroyed his career, his spirit. Her gaze fixes on Victoria. Accusations that began after he rejected inappropriate advances from a board member's wife. The implication lands like a thunderclap. Heads turn toward Victoria, whose carefully maintained facade begins to crumble under collective scrutiny. That's slander, Victoria hisses. You have no proof. I kept his letters, Maria replies simply. Everyone, documenting what happened. I kept them to explain to Elsa someday why her father left us, why we had to hide who we were. Victoria's desperation becomes palpable. Even if this preposterous story were true, it happened years ago. Ancient history. Is it? Judge Montgomery's voice has turned cold. You've had this woman working in your home for years, keeping her daughter in servitude while knowing exactly who they were? That's not history, Mrs. Harrington. That's ongoing cruelty with clear intent. The whispers around them grow louder. Victoria's social peers begin to edge away, the contagion of scandal already working its insidious magic. Sebastian, witnessing his mother's unraveling, steps forward unexpectedly. His face, usually set in lines of arrogance, shows something new, a dawning recognition of ugliness he never allowed himself to see before. The way she plays, he says quietly. I could practice for a lifetime and never sound like that. He turns to Elsa, something like respect reluctantly entering his expression. You deserved to win. I never had a chance, did I? This simple acknowledgement from the most unexpected source seems to break something in Victoria. She stands isolated in a crowd that continues to pull away from her, her careful construction of respectability collapsing around her. You'll regret this, she whispers, but the threat sounds hollow even to her own ears. 1 year later, the concert hall shimmers with anticipation. Every seat is filled, the audience murmuring with excitement as they await the evening's featured performer. Programs rustle, naming tonight's soloist, Elsa Martinez, recipient of the Harrington Montgomery Scholarship for Exceptional Musical Talent. Behind the curtain, Elsa adjusts the sleeves of her elegant concert dress, a far cry from the uniform she wore just 12 months ago. Judge Montgomery approaches, his face reflecting the pride of a mentor. They're ready for you, he says simply. Are you nervous? A little, Elsa admits, but the good kind of nervous. Remember what I told you. Technical perfection is admirable, but emotional truth is unforgettable, she completes with a smile. I remember. In the third row center, Maria sits in a place of honor, no longer in a maid's uniform but dressed in a suit she designed herself, the first piece from her new small business. The months since the fateful gala have transformed her as much as they've transformed Elsa. Standing taller, speaking with confidence, she has rediscovered dreams she thought permanently surrendered. The lights dim. The audience stills. Elsa walks onto the stage with measured steps, the spotlight following her journey to the grand piano at center stage. She bows to enthusiastic applause, then settles at the instrument, takes a centering breath, and begins to play. Her technique has refined under Montgomery's tutelage, but the raw emotional power that captivated her first audience remains the core of her artistry. The music soars through the concert hall, telling the story of struggle, perseverance, and triumph that has become her signature. Across town, Victoria Harrington sits alone in her study, a newspaper open before her. The society pages, once her domain, now feature a glowing review of Elsa's latest performance alongside news of the foundation established in Mateo Martinez's name to support undiscovered musical talent from disadvantaged backgrounds. The scandal that followed the gala didn't destroy Victoria socially, but it diminished her. Board positions politely not renewed, invitations that somehow get lost, friends suddenly busy when she calls. Sebastian, in an unexpected turn, has enrolled in a state university music program where he studies alongside students from diverse backgrounds. The experience has humbled him, but also freed him from the weight of expectations he could never fulfill. Back at the concert hall, Elsa concludes her performance to thunderous applause. As she takes her bow, her eyes find her mother in the audience. Their shared smile contains volumes, memories of fear and hiding transmuted into a present of possibility and hope. In the reception following the concert, Judge Montgomery introduces Elsa to music industry connections, conservatory directors, and potential sponsors. Her journey has just begun, but already her story has inspired others. Young people from backgrounds similar to hers approach her shyly, seeing in her achievement permission to pursue their own dreams. "Your father would be so proud," Montgomery tells her when they have a moment alone. "Not just of your playing, but of your courage." "Do you think he might hear about this someday? Maybe come back?" Elsa asks, the question revealing the lingering hope she's never quite abandoned. "We're still searching," Montgomery assures her. "But whether or not we find him, his legacy continues through you." Maria joins them, placing a supportive hand on her daughter's shoulder. "And through all the children who will benefit from the foundation," she adds. "Every talent that won't be wasted, every voice that won't be silenced." Elsa covers her mother's hand with her own. "We did it, Mom." "No, mija. You did it. I just finally stopped standing in your way." Around them, the future unfolds with possibilities neither could have imagined a year before, not just for themselves, but for others who, like them, had been told to stay invisible, to know their place. That place, they now understand, is wherever their talent and determination can take them. Hit subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss another life-changing beat story. Drop a comment about a time someone underestimated your potential. We read every single one. This channel exists to remind the world that everyone's story deserves to be heard, including yours.